Hi everyone, welcome to our Idea Talk. Today we're here with Quinhones. I'm Vanessa, as always from Idea, and we're talking about attracting and retaining talent after the crisis. Rui, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Okay, thank you for your invitation, Vanessa.
You're
It's a pleasure
welcome.
to be here.
So before we start, let me just tell everyone that you can leave your questions for Rui at the chat box. So will not. Rui will answer them at the end of our talk. And so I think we should start speaking of the present so we can talk about the future. So Rui, our government has been making some efforts so companies can keep up with all these concerns and the pandemic that it's going on. So there have been measures like layoffs, etc. Saying this, have you been noticing some decrease of companies like in what concerns to recruitment processes, or if in other way, people are searching more for job offers?
Well, first of all, we have to understand that we are living a very unique situation. We were talking before go live that today in CNN we are talking about 4 billion people locked down, not working, but locked down on their houses. So this represents more than half of all the human species living in their homes without getting out, without having jobs to do, without consuming. So the impact is huge, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
In Portugal, at least in the beginning of the week, we have about 70,000 companies asking to join the layoff system. And we are at this moment in an unemployment rate about 40.5%. We were between 5 and 6 2 months ago. So this caused a huge impact in the labor force, a huge impact in our economic system, and of course a huge impact in our business, in recruitment, in job offers, and in appliance. What happens this moment? We have noticed a huge decrease in job offers.
Okay.
Because most of the job openings are freeze at this moment, and we also exist a huge growth of candidates trying to reach these offers. I can tell you that usually during a normal week, we receive between 3,000 and 3,500 appliance,
Okay.
CVs. Last week we counted more than 7,000.
Wow.
So it's almost the double. We don't have answers to all these people because I think they are doing the right thing. Is trying to reach the markets, trying to grab the opportunities. They should do this. They should try to find a place, maintain relevance, maintain active, but of course the number of jobs offered is completely different from 2 months ago.
What kind of job opportunities are these candidates applying for?
They are applying for the opportunities that exist on this moment. So we are talking about shared service centers who still maintain their activity. We are talking about some opportunities in retail. Some retail, especially around food supplies and things like that. IT remains
very active.
not the same, but with a good set of opportunities. There's something very curious in the last week and a half. Is companies starting to find people for like CFOs or people for the financial areas, because they know it's going to be very important in the next months to recover their activities.
So people are concerned about that specific skill for the next period of time, is it?
Well, I'm not quite sure that we already reached that point, that companies are changing the profiles that they are looking, trying to adapt to this new situation, because we are just, all of us are just guessing the future. We don't know what's going to happen, truly. We are not seeing at this moment a significant change of the skill sets for each of these opportunities. Okay. Probably this ability of working from home or the experience of working from home could be important in the future. What we have noticed as a not a big change, but almost a big change, is the way as candidates approach our company and recruitment companies. 2 months ago, when you ask a candidate to make a Skype call, let's say half of them try to have a personal interview. Mm-hmm. They don't like Skype calls. They don't like being screened.
Because it's very different.
In digital ways. They like to speak with the recruiter. They like to be there, to look on the eyes. What happens now is when we approach people and ask them for a conference call, there's no problem at all. All of them have Skype, have Hangouts, have Zoom, any tools. There's a suite of tools around. So I think that's the most important change that we noticed in the last 3 weeks.
It's the difference in the process for recruitment, and so that it's a need for either way. So for the companies that are still recruiting and at this time, and also for candidates, what would you say that it's the most I don't know, what tips can you give for either ways? What would you say that people as candidates should, how should they approach these kind of interviews through a camera, and how should companies evaluate their candidates through it as well?
Okay, I think for candidates it's not completely new. There's several videos, several channels in YouTube that teach how to approach a Skype call interview. You have to prepare yourself. You have to prepare your environment, your space. You shouldn't have your camera like this. You know, it's not comfortable to have your camera just in your head. You have to focus on your skills, on your competence. You have to learn about the company that you are applying. So I think it's around the same stuff that it was before the COVID pandemic.
But,
so,
how can you express your attitude? Because it's a very important thing to express when you're in a real or personal interview. How can you pass that attitude, same attitude, through a camera?
Well, there are some techniques that you can use. You can train yourself in the mirror, by example, or you can train yourself with a friend, with your wife, with your husband. You can train that. But of course, it's not the same. It's not exactly the same. You have to be very skilled on that. It's not just open the camera, brush your hair, or if you don't have hair, but be nice. It's not just that. You have to improve that type of skills. Look, humans, our species is likes very much this type of contact, the direct contact. We are a species of social contact. That's why we develop better than other competitors for in this world. So when we lose these abilities that are very natural for us, we have to train the other abilities. It's not the same. So you have to train it. For companies, I was talking about candidates. For companies, well, the interview requires also skill sets of competence from the company. You have to be much more objective in the type of question that you have. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you have to provide tests. You have to require some answers after the Skype call, but that's not the major issue during this lockdown. The biggest problem is the onboarding system. How do you get people inside your company or inside your company, but they are not coming for your company? They are starting to work from home. There's hundreds of people that start to work for the first time in a company, and they didn't even see the offices of this company. They start to work. Their first day on job was at home. So there are several aspects around this. There are several companies that are doing this very well. And I think this could be important learning for the future. Because onboarding could be on your office, but also can be in the house of the candidate. You just have to think about this. You have to think what is important to tell to someone who's going to work with you. Okay, these things like mission, vision, things like that.
Are they more important than ever to have the ability to pass them?
Yeah, you are right. Yeah, they are more important than ever. They are more important than ever. But you have to translate this in something that is reachable, not just a stamp, not just some words in the door or in the wall. You have to give some consistency.
Probably they will turn more into attitudes than just fancy words in a wall, isn't it? So you have to practice it more often. I was in a conference a few days ago, and someone asked, actually, because I started at IDEA precisely on that context. So I didn't have much contact with personal with my teammates, and people were asking me how is it, how do you make this adaptation to this context? Saying exactly what you're saying, I think the tools you have are the digital tools are really useful in Zoom and meetings very often. So I would ask you, so concerning these needs for attracting talent and all the obstacles we have right now, how is it going to be in the future? So will people be concerned about these attitudes from their companies more than ever?
Yes, I'm quite sure. I'm quite sure of that. We have normally we tend to establish a behavior that is equal for everyone and for every companies. As we know, that is the theory. The practice told us that there are differences between companies, between sectors, and between people. But there are things that are quite the same for everyone. When you are in a crisis, when you are suffering from something, the people that helps you or the people that give you some relief on that pain, you are not going to forget for your whole life. So what happens is the companies that are really trying to help their people, their employees, they will be recognized for that. And then they don't have to do much publicity on top of that. They just have to support people. Support the way they can. I'm not saying that a company that goes for layoff, it's not supporting their people. Probably they are going to support, they are supporting their people, trying to resist to the economic impact of this situation. But if they speak clearly, if they were true, transparent, if they were there for answering the questions, the people will recognize that heifer, will recognize that employee as a great employee. On the other hand, you have companies that they were not so great employees before the crisis. They are not so great employees now, and they are not going to be so great employees in the future. And what happens is when the Portuguese people used to say, when the tide goes down, you see who's wearing the shorts or not. So this is what's going to happen. As you know, in the last 4 or 5 years, you heard a lot of bullshit about employer branding, EVP, candidate experience, and things like that.
A lot of big words.
Yes, there are buzz and big words, but now it's the real time to prove who really cares about people, who really cares about their EVP. And I have to say it again. This is not, it is not important if you have to cut some jobs. It's not important if you have to go to layoff. It's not important if you have to restrain some of the conditions that you give to your persons, as long as you can communicate that in a very honest and transparent way. Sorry, I have all of my devices making
So
sounds.
would you say that communication in this time precisely will be key for everything that will happen, and even the possibility that people will understand why their companies are doing what they're doing?
Yes. Why should I have to know that my company or my competitor goes to lay off by the news, by the TV? Why don't we know about themselves? They don't need to communicate just when they put a snooker table in the office. They are so great with all these types of perks, but when the stuff gets going, everybody gets shut down. It's not like that. And you have very good examples here in Portugal. Companies who have to go to layoff, and the first communication was done by the CEO or by a big manager or something like that. You have to talk about this. You have to talk about the hard things, the very difficult things, not just the good ones. And of course, at this moment, we have some companies that sometimes talk about EVP, employer branding, the importance of attraction and retention. And at this moment, you don't hear anything about them. They are completely shut down. And I think they are losing a great opportunity to still communicate it, at least with their own employees. Because if they act correctly, the biggest ambassadors for the future are their own employees. That's going to be the people who are going to say, come work with us. Because in a moment of crisis, in the most difficult moment that we have in our lives, this company stay here and help us in the way they can. And so what we are saying about our values and our mission, it's really true. But so this is a moment to speak about this. It's a moment to clarify the people. It's a moment to be honest and to be transparent, not to be shut down.
to be human, for instance.
Yes, and to be human. Yeah.
So we're right about the end of the times. As we were saying, the time goes really fast on these conversations. But let me ask you something about the future, because obviously we are seeing a lot of companies changing their operation, for instance, and maybe that will mean that some jobs will be automated in some ways, so they will be more technical and more technological than they were before, because the context requires it. So would you say that some skills and some job positions like artificial intelligence, robotics, they will be asked or they will have a growth more accelerated than we were expecting so far?
Vanessa, I'm not quite sure of that, because we were before this coronavirus crisis, we were in a path of growth on that type of jobs. I think what happens now, they are frozen because of the economical effects of the lockdown, and after that, I think they are going to maintain their path. I'm not sure that we're going to see something growing, rockets until the sky on that type of things. What we probably would see, I hope so. It's a belief, but it's also a hope that we see better education systems, better training models for these type of situations. We are not locked down in home because we decided. These 4 billion of people, they didn't decide that they are going to work from home because it's better. They have to go there. They were obliged to do that. And many of them are fighting against a new way of work, about dealing with technology, dealing with lots of tools that they already knew, but they didn't
use on a daily basis.
So I hope that we will see an increase of our training systems, training models around this possibility of remote work. Probably, and I hope so, because I believe that it's not with lockdowns that we're going to fight these outbreaks of virus, because they are going to happen in the future, and we cannot close our economies every 2 and 2 years, or every 3 and 3 years. I hope that the countries and the governments understand that we are locked down simply because we don't have healthcare systems prepared to deal with this. That's why we are at home, because we have to stop the propagation of the virus. So this is the only way, but it's not the better way. The better way is having very healthy government systems, and have a huge investment in healthcare systems. Not what we have seen from the past. So I think that will be the areas of growth. About IT, about robotics, about artificial intelligence, they will keep their pace, their rhythm. And see, there's another important thing. At this moment, some of the most secure jobs are not the sexy jobs from February. A policeman, a fireman, okay? People that working in supermarkets, the people that working in storehouses, the people are driving trucks. They were not sexy jobs for anyone. But at this moment are the jobs that are keeping the pace of our economy and our civilization.
True. So I think you're optimistic about the future, aren't you?
Yes, I'm optimistic. Yes, I am. I believe that some of us were going to die in a way of economical thinking. Some of the companies were going to die. Some of them are going to transform their businesses. Others are going to recover their normal pace. But I think we'll survive. We'll survive as a species and as a civilization.
I think that's good. That's good that we survive. Yes, and we mostly have to be prepared for any changes that the future will bring to us. Either some of them, like this one, and others that we can actually define right now. So yes, and
that is the most important. That is the most important thing, Vanessa. That we have to learn. We have to learn how to live in this type of events. We have been very fortunately in the last century or the last 50 years. We have been very fortunately, especially in Europe, and we have to adapt to live in this insecure environment. Life is a risk. Life is a risk, and we have to understand that and be okay with that. Okay, not putting every eggs in the same basket. Be prepared for something that could happen tomorrow, and maintain positive, because life is a risk. It's our human nature.
Yes, and so we are gonna adapt ourselves and our jobs and our skills for the future. Rui, I think our time is up, and we went a little bit more than 20 minutes as we were expecting, actually. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you to everybody that is watching. We'll be back on next Monday with Stuart Noakes from Canopy, and I hope to see you there. Rui, thank you once again, and thank you all. Bye.
Thank you all. Bye. Thank you.